Here's Todd versus Cupcake, and he is fighting a very small cake. In Game 3 of this series, I'm Sidewinder, your host, bringing you this game for Community Starcraft 2. Mhte'Todd is our blue Protoss, and the green Terran is Cupcake. They will be spawning here on Tal'Darim Altar in the closest positions possible, but only occupying the bottom of the map. On this map in particular, this is one map where you can really get away with hiding the expansion, like up here in this location, or even at this natural expansion if you're Todd, or this natural if you're Cupcake. Somewhere that they're usually never going to scout until super deep into the game. So if you want to sneak in an expansion, this is definitely the map and the scenario in which you can do it based on these spawns. So if you're playing in your own games, be mindful of stuff like that. Like if your opponent has a lot more units that you're not expecting, search around the map and see if you can find one of his stray expansions. This is a weird version of Tal'Darim. I just noticed this. There's only one geyser and only 5 mineral patches at this expansion and no rocks. So this is definitely not the latter edition. This seems like an actually older version, but it's not old enough. Oh wait, actually it is old enough to be one of the first editions they ever released, considering there are these little like plateaus here that are kind of random. There was one game in particular that Boxer played where he landed a whole bunch of Marines on these plateaus against the Zerg player, and the Zerg player couldn't fight back because he didn't have vision up there. So that got changed quite a bit. There was actually, those plateaus are still here, but there's stuff on top of them. This plateau's gone on the newer version. So weird versions on these maps, but anyway, the players are now scouting. Both of them are going to be scouting in the correct direction first, so they'll be able to at least get in there and see what's going on, but they're not going to see anything overly interesting. This is so standard stuff, at least in terms of the openers from both players. Cupcake is, of course, going to wait for this Marine to finish and then start his orbital command. The probe is going to see that, which is fairly relevant, because if they don't start their orbital command right away, it usually means they're like proxying barracks or something really sneaky, which you don't see terribly often, but it's definitely possible. Todd's going to go ahead and put down a Cybernetics core here, and Cupcake is not yet shown what he's going to do. Usually wait until after this first Marine. It's going to be a tech lab, which slightly interrupts the gas mining off of these SCVs. And by slight, I mean extremely slight. You can see they're just barely having to go out of their way to get to that geyser, so kind of weird placement, but it's not really that big of a deal. The one Marine is standing guard here waiting for a probe to come up so that he can kill it. The probe is going to just go ahead and watch the watchtower. Concussor shells and a Marauder coming down here, and this Terran is definitely in love with the tech labs on his barracks. He's definitely in love with overproducing Vikings and then underproducing them at weird times. So both these players have kind of a weird playstyle. Todd's pylon placements aren't nearly as weird. He doesn't yet have one out on the map somewhere, which I don't know where he would exactly put it. Maybe right here to spot for drops or something, but yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think they're dealing with lag spikes right here. I don't even know what event this was from. Talking about Star Wars and typing in random text, and yeah, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure this was from a tournament. In an earlier game they were talking about admins being out. So I don't know what event this was actually from, but both players are going to be on 3 production buildings early in the game, so 3 barracks versus 3 gateways. Except for Todd is going to go ahead and take a Nexus, and his opponent has not yet shown a command center, which he's expanded fairly early in the other games. Yeah, again, a lot of chatter going on here based upon the game state. But Cupcake's going to go ahead and press out with 3 Marauders and a Marine, and this SCV is now coming home after being damaged just a little bit. He's going to get back to work. There's no workman's comp for the Terran race, apparently. He's leaving 1 Marauder home, though, so this is kind of a weird push-out. Only 2 Marauders and a Marine. He's not going to be able to do very much, but Todd is cutting a lot of corners right now. He only has 1 Stalker on the field, so if they actually walked all the way up there and Todd didn't get his warp in like right away, he would have a lot of trouble holding this off. But there's going to be 3 Stalkers now, which is enough to beat 2 Marauders and a Marine if you focus fire correctly. More units rallying out here for Cupcakes. This is just going to be a straight-up 3 racks, adding a 4th now. So this is getting like really edging on the verge of an all-in here at a Cupcake. And if you're Todd in this situation, you have to be sure to conserve units. So he needs to be a little bit careful in this engagement, but if he finds those Marauders and Marine, he should actually be able to win this fight. The Stalkers are actually faster than Marauders, so they will get damage off. Cupcake has to just run home, but if he runs in this meat grinder of units, he's going to lose everything. Todd can't get too greedy here. He needs to run home now, and he will at least save all of his stalkers. He needs to get warp-ins immediately and chrono boost his gateways if he has any stowed up. He does have one chrono boost and one more here on his Nexus. He needs to just chrono out units as fast as he can, because this is going to be an all-in here from Cupcake. And Todd, if he can get this Immortal on the field, that'll be huge. So he's chronoing out the Immortal as fast as he can. He needs about another 40 seconds before that gets on the field, and can take on these Marauders. This is actually fairly Marine heavy, but if you can target the Marauders down, the Marines just don't do a lot of DPS. They do if they're stimmed, but they don't have shields, so it kind of counteracts itself a little bit. It just depends on the battle circumstances. But the supplies are fairly even. Here's that random pylon out of Todd finally getting killed. The Immortal is going to be out in time, so fortunate enough for him, he's going to have that extra DPS on the field, but he's now supply blocked, so it's going to be essentially this standing army versus this standing army, and a lot of SCVs coming in. You can see the Immortal is just getting targeted down immediately, and Todd is losing a lot. He has to pull probes here to try and hold this off, but there's just so much Marine DPS that it's going to be close. Todd is actually holding this off pretty well. So, yeah, Todd does a pretty good job there, and Cupcake just says, good game. So, wow, I actually did not expect that. Todd handling his army quite well. I think there was just a lot more zealots than I thought, but Todd handling that pretty well, even though Cupcake pulled all of his SCVs, just tried to hit a stim timing there. But this is proof that this one gate expand, if you do it correctly, can hold a 3 racks stim timing from a Terran player. So very cool game there out of Todd, and a pretty interesting series out of these players. Cupcake in particular, I've never heard of him, but he has a really weird playstyle. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't sit very normally with me. It's just awkward. Like, he either has a lot of barracks or he has no barracks, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just not really seeing the scouting reads that he's making, but yeah, I hope to cast more Todd games in the future, as he's definitely a very good Protoss, a really underrated Protoss especially. So until then, I guess I will be back for more casts here in the near future, more tutorials especially, I hope, for at least scouting the mirrors and Terran and Zerg matchups. And I want to fully develop the tutorials basically for each race so that you can pick it up if you're just starting the game from a new race, and be able to learn and play at the same time and learn at accelerated rate. So look out for more casts in the future. I'll see you guys next time.